everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in today's video, we are going to be talking about other mainstream publications lists of trends that need to go for 2023, and I'm going to be weighing in on whether I agree with this list on the trends that are leaving us in 2023, or whether I disagree. I'm also going to be talking about whether I personally like them, or whether or not I just think that they are on the way out in terms of their mainstream popularity. So that's what we're talking about today. I did a similar list a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to link that at the end of this video of trends that are upcoming and whether I agree or disagree with them from the mainstream media. But now we're doing trends that need to go. So let's get going. Okay, but before I get to those trends that need to go, let me take a minute and thank today's sponsor, which is Helix Sleep. Helix Sleep makes premium mattresses and bedding that are customized to fit your needs and conveniently shipped directly to your door. The first thing I did to order my mattress was to take their sleep quiz so that I can get matched with a perfect mattress that fits me, and that was the Helix Dusk Luxe. So I'm a stomach sleeper. Like, I would love to say that I'm like a graceful back or side sleeper, but no, I'm actually like, I sleep like I'm skydiving. And this mattress is great for me as it has the extra support that you need if you sleep like I do. With your Helix Sleep mattress, you get a 100-night sleep trial along with a 10-year warranty. So if it makes you nervous to buy something that you haven't tried before, you get more than 3 months to make sure that you love it. If you don't, they'll pick it up from your house and you'll get a full refund. It's free shipping sent directly to your door if you live in the US, and it comes rolled up in a really cute box, but take it from me, make sure that you put the mattress on the bed frame before you cut it open. Once you cut that plastic, it's all going to happen really fast, so just get prepared. Go to helixsleep.com/NickLewis for up to $200 off your Helix Sleep mattress, plus you also get 2 free pillows. Thanks Helix Sleep for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to those trends that need to go, according to these publications anyway. Okay, so first up, we're going to be looking at Insider's list of interior design trends that need to go for 2023, and their first one is shades of gray are on the way out. So what they're talking about here is the all gray palette, the really cool grayed out black and white sort of aesthetic, the very neutral, cooler gray toned neutrals that have been very, very popular in years past. So I agree, but I think this is like a really safe pick. If you follow my channel, you know that like the color palettes that have been trending and what you're gonna see in stores is going to lean a lot more warmer, right? We're getting a lot more beige, a lot more greige, kind of warmer beiger tones, brown tones, things like that, chocolate brown, milk chocolate, dark chocolate, any type of chocolate, you know, that type of thing. Those things have just been very popular. Tans and leathers and just really warmer palettes, especially for warmer neutrals like beige. So do I agree? Yes, I think that cooler tone grays have not been or are not as trendy for 2023, but honestly, they weren't that trendy in 2021. So I think we're a little behind the times there from Insider, but I would overall agree with the sentiment. Okay, next up, they say massive lighting fixtures have proved to be impractical. They think massive oversized lighting is on the way out. I kind of sort of disagree, but first I'm gonna read this quote from what they had to say. I hope we leave massive lighting in 2022. Fixtures keep increasing in size and often do not match the scale of a room. A chandelier should not be as big as the dining table beneath it, and you should be able to approach the table without feeling like you are going to hit your head on the light fixture. So I agree with that paragraph. I think that that makes sense. Obviously, if you're gonna use an extreme like a lighting fixture being as large as the dining room table, yeah, that's getting ridiculous. I talked about these massive table lamps before in a previous video, that they were incredibly impractical and kind of silly. I would say that overhead lighting fixtures, you can get away with a little bit more, because so long as people aren't hitting their heads or whatever, you can kind of get away with a little bit more there, while table lamps take up a lot more real estate, so they're a little bit harder to integrate into a space effectively, in my opinion. I like a large oversized light, I'm not gonna lie. I do like them. I will admit the ones that they're maybe talking about are a little bit extreme, right? If you saw my Karen Bond house tour, that was one of her tips. She says go big on the lighting, but she's really specifically talking about the overhead lighting, so that, you know, pendant above the dining room table, over top of islands, things like that. So long as they're practical, I think they're fine. When they get to the point of impractical, that's a problem. So agree, sort of. Okay, next up from Insider is floating shelves will fall out of favor. Yes, I would agree. I think open shelving had a moment, and I personally have shouted from the rooftops that the lots and lots of open shelving, specifically in the kitchen, taking away all your uppers and replacing them with floating shelves, that is a trend that needs to go. It's impractical for most people. Your stuff's not that nice to display. You know, the plastic kids cups, we've talked about this. No one needs to see your Tupperware. That's why you hide it behind this genius invention called cupboard doors, so you can hide them, because all that stuff is ugly and you don't need to display it. So I'm a big fan of doors because I think they do a really good job at hiding your ugly things. I would say a little bit of open shelving though can be fun. A way to sort of show some personality, to show, you know, display some cookbooks, to display some, you know, pottery, some ceramics, right? Whatever you've got that's really nice and you actually want to show off, that's fun. It's just that for most people, we don't have very much stuff that fits that criteria. You know, we don't have that many things that really need to be displayed. So I would agree that overwhelming amounts of open shelving that was really trendy is a problem. But I would say that a little bit can be fun. Kind of like the lighting, you know, if it's right sized to the room, and even if it's a bit oversized, great. When it starts to get ridiculous, of course, that's when we need to tone things down a little bit. So I'm gonna overall agree though that the impractical open shelving needs to stay behind in 2022. Stay there, please. Okay, next up, they say the modern organic trend will decrease in popularity. I actually disagree with this, but is this just my personal taste coming through and actually, yeah, maybe. You know what? I disagree. I actually love this trend. I think that the modern organic trend is something that is relatively timeless. Eek. I don't know. It's hard. Timeless is hard. You know, it's hard. It's really hard to peer into that crystal ball. I like the idea of people using more natural materials in their home. I love that people are investing in quality. And I overall think that this is actually a trend that is going to last for sure another year. I think it's a bit soon to just kind of call the RIP on the modern organic trend. These trends work in cycles, and you know, some things just that are really stupid, like faux mirrors, for example, or you know, a lot of that stuff that's like really super trendy for about 6 minutes. That stuff comes and goes super quickly. But I think overall design styles that are good design, but they might just really increase in popularity for a bit and then decrease, they usually have a little bit of a longer lifespan than a year or whatever, which is about how long we've lived in this modern organic design trend. I don't think it's something that is going to go away in 2023. I think you got a little bit of legs still left in that. It takes a little bit of time, right? Like the whole boho thing. Everybody loved boho, and it's still a great style. I'm not saying it's not a good style, but it was a bit overplayed, sure. And you know, it didn't last 6 months. Like it was, you know what I mean? People don't change out their houses the way they change out their wardrobes. So I think it's fair that, you know, these styles tend to kick around a little bit longer. So I still think this is going to be trendy in 2023. Well, is it going to be trendy in 2026? I don't know, but I still think you got some time there. So I'm going to disagree on this one. Okay, next up, let's move over to Architectural Digest, good old AD. Let's see what they have to say. So their first thing on their list is, we're getting rid of Blobby Everything everywhere. Okay, I agree with this, but that's also, again, maybe my personal taste sort of poking through, that I don't really always love the super blobby trend. If you missed it, a lot of things have been going decor, mirrors, couches, coffee tables, everything just sort of looks like a blob. And this sort of, some of it's really colorful and really kooky, and some of it's a little bit more modern and organic lines and whatever. But for the most part, we've seen a lot of blobs. Blobs are fine, I guess. There's some place for them. I think they can be relatively harmless, but I see a lot of spaces that look really cool for a bit, you know. There are blobs everywhere, right? We've got the arches, and then we've got the blobby couch, and we've got the blobby coffee table, and we've got a blobby lamp, and then we've got like a blobby mirror, and then of course we've got some weird blobby decor things just melting off of the wall, right? Like, I think that is a little overplayed, a little overdone, and I don't think it screams timeless to me. And I think, kind of like what I was saying earlier, I don't think this one has as much legs as modern organic does for me, because I just don't think it fits most people's style. So a little bit of blobs, I still think we're gonna see, that's cool, but I think I agree with AD that we're going to see that mixed a little bit more in with some cleaner lines. Personally, I just think, I've been into some really trendy spaces lately. If it's like, oh, I get it, I get what you're doing. This is like very on trend right now, but it doesn't, I can't say for sure that that's gonna be the case in 2 or 3 years. You know what I mean? I can't say that we're gonna see all the squiggles still here in a couple of years. So this one feels like, I don't think it's gonna go away right away. I don't think it's like done. It could kind of be like modern organic. It's got a little bit more legs, but it doesn't scream timeless to me. So I'm going to kind of sort of say that I agree, I think, with AD on this one. Yeah. Okay, next up, they talk about squeaky clean kitchens. This is those really minimal kitchens where people don't have anything on the countertops and they're just completely clean and free of all clutter and all everything, to be honest. And they almost to the point don't even feel functional. So I would agree with this. I do think that it's not how most people live. However, it is my personal belief that you should be really intentional with what you put in your kitchen and you choose to display. So, you know, if certain appliances or certain things are not in use, then maybe consider putting them away. Not always. Like I got my espresso machine back there and I love it and I like to display it because I actually think it looks really cool. So for me, that's something that I choose to display, right? So really being intentional with what you choose to display and what you choose not to. The problem with this sort of everything looks like a magazine trend is that that's not actually practical, because most people actually do use some things in their kitchen fairly regularly and therefore should be displayed or put out for regular use, because it is functional to be able just to grab a wooden spoon from a crock that's right next to the stovetop. I think that is practical. So having that on display makes sense, because that's something that can be beautiful, but is also something that you can regularly use and is actually functional for like real people that actually cook in their kitchens. The problem with a lot of this magazine look is that no one actually lives this way. And that's kind of the problem. So I would agree that the super squeaky clean kitchens, the ones that have absolutely nothing on and look like basically a show home, and it looks like a realtor kind of styled it for an open house and it doesn't actually look like anybody's cooked in it, that's for Instagram. That's not real life. And so I agree that I think we're kind of over that. So overall, I would agree with AD on this one. Okay, next up, they claim open floor plans are going away. Oof. Spicy. I feel like this is an unpopular opinion of mine, I know. I do think that open concepts are closing off slightly. I don't think we're fully going back to the traditional floor plan. I've said that before. I think that people are looking for ways to get the benefits of a traditional or closed floor plan. So noise reduction being one of them, being able to section off mess. So having a separate kitchen that's not open to the living room allows you to cook and things and create mess in the kitchen without it necessarily impacting sort of your guests or your family or whatever they're in the living room, right? So there's some sound benefits of people in different rooms, that they're not bugging each other as much as maybe they are in an open concept. So I do admit that that stuff is an advantage of a traditional floor plan, but there's also some great advantages to open concept as well. So I think people are considering closing off those walls a little bit, especially in new constructions and renovations and stuff, where you can find ways to sort of section off, you know, sections of the home a little bit more rather than having one big giant open space. But I don't think open concept completely is going away, because I do think there are significant advantages that really work for a modern lifestyle of people being able to keep an eye on the kids while they're in one room, while they're cooking dinner, things like that. I do think a lot of people are used to the open concept. There are some challenges with it, which is why we're seeing some rooms getting closed off, but I don't think it's going away completely. If anything, we're going to more of a hybrid, open/closed. If that makes sense. It doesn't, but you know, go with it. So I would disagree-ish on this one. So next up, all white and gloomy Greige interiors. Okay, so allow me to get technical for a second here. This is what bugs me about this one, is Greige is sort of a little bit misunderstood. So if you don't know what Greige is, it used to be called taupe, but apparently we renamed it as Greige, which is another unfortunate name, but whatever. Greige is really a mix of gray and beige. So you've got gray on one side, which there are warmer grays and there are cooler grays, but a lot of the ones that were really popular several years ago, see my previous answer, they kind of had more of a blue undertone to them, right? They had a blue or even a purple undertone. And so that made them quite cool, right? So really cool gray palette with a lot of whites and blacks and whatever. And that was kind of really popular. Remember the gray wood floors, right? Popular 5, 6, 7 years ago. Those are a little bit dated now, but anyway, that's beside the point. Those were quite cool, and that was sort of a gray sort of aesthetic. That was the gray palette that was very popular and was the neutral of choice for many years. Very cool, but very impersonal and unwelcoming. So beige is a little bit warmer, right? And then, and it's, you know, got some yellow and orangey undertones to it, and that's been very popular for a while. So they've now said that Greige is boring and cool and unwelcoming, and I don't actually agree with that, because I actually do think that Greige can be warmer and a little bit more friendly than what we see with typical gray. So take something like Stonington gray from Benjamin Moore, that is a very cool gray, versus something like Lennox tan, which is a very warm beige. So something in the middle would be like a Balboa Mist, right, which is more of a lighter greige tone. I don't think Balboa Mist is cold and unwelcoming necessarily. I think it's got some of the advantages of both. So all of it is that's just me being technical for a minute, okay? So I have an issue with the AD on that one. But I do think that they're right that the cool and cooler toned greiges or even grays might not be super popular. But I think Greige as a whole actually is sometimes a nice, beautiful compromise of the two. And I quite like a lot of greige colors, again, like Balboa Mist, which I think is great. So I do think cooler, more unwelcoming spaces are not as trendy, and warmer, cozier spaces tend to be more trendy right now. But I do think greige can be a part of that. So I disagree on a technical level, but I understand the sentiment. Does that make sense? Okay, next up, they say TV-centered living rooms. I disagree on this one because I just don't think it's how most people live. You know, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say it. I just don't think that most people are ready to completely ditch their television. Now, I would say, maybe this is more what they mean, structuring the space less around the television and more around conversation now that people are in each other's homes again, and hopefully we're all hanging out together and we've realized the importance of social connection based on the last few years. I do think that, I hope that people are building their rooms a little bit more around sort of creating a space where people can sort of communicate and chat and build relationships and things like that. Less around, let's just watch Netflix for 8 hours while we wait for this pandemic to draw itself out. You know what I mean? Which is how we lived for a while. So hopefully that is the trend for the future. But I stopped short of saying like, let's just get rid of the television. So I don't know exactly kind of really which one they're saying there, but that's kind of my own personal stance. So like, I agree and disagree. If you're saying get rid of the TV, that's just not reality for most people. I'm sorry, I just don't think it is. You might not watch television, good for you. I like White Lotus, you know? So that's for me. Oh, did you see White Lotus, you guys? I just finished season 2. Anyway, that's not why you clicked on the video. We don't have to talk about it, but like, they're just so complex, you know? And that's, Jennifer Coolidge. Anyway, so yeah, the reality is that people watch television. I'm sorry. So yes to the TV being in the room. Hopefully though, space plan is such that people are conversing a little bit more with each other when the TV is not on, which is hopefully more often than it was before. Okay, and next up they have chill on the boucle. And loyal viewers of the channel know that I never bought into the boucle trend. It just had a terry cloth towel quality to it for me. It just looked like your chair is pilling. You know, but I get it. People wanted texture while still being really neutral, because most of the time it was that white boucle. There are different colors of boucle, but that's the most popular one. And then, you know, it went down the road of getting duped all the time. And then pretty soon there's a boucle chair at Walmart for like 150 bucks or something. And it was like, not even boucle, like not even close. So there are some impractical issues with boucle as well around like, you know, it just looks like if you have a cat, good luck. That's just one big giant scratching post to that kitty cat, I'm sorry. So there are some practical considerations with boucle. I never really got it. And I think that I agree personally that boucle might be on the way out. I don't know. I mean, I think it could still be popular for 2023. I talk to different retailers that work in, you know, product and marketing and stuff all the time, and they still say that they're selling a lot of boucle. Every time I go in, you know, I talk to them and I'm like, you know, how is this selling? They say it's still one of our most popular fabric choices. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to completely go away in 2023, but I think it probably is going to have another, maybe a year or two left in it. But I don't think it's going to be here super, super popular forever, just because again, there's some practical considerations that work for most people. That's kind of when I sort of look at trends. I'm also kind of like, is this really how I think people really live in their lives? Because sometimes it's a bit of trends become like cool, fun toys for rich people, and then it never actually really makes sense for regular people. And eventually those cool rich people get sick of it and then they move on to other things. Some of these trends end up looking a bit silly because, you know, they just came and went flash in the pan, because that just isn't reality for how most people live. And that's just usually one of my predictions. And I just don't think boucle is going to be something that is going to work for most people. And so that is why I have long predicted that it is not going to be a fabric that is going to be super popular forever. AD says I'm right, but we'll see. I don't know. I think it might have some legs in it, but I think it'll go away soon. Okay, and finally we have HGTV, home of Joanna. Is Joanna Gaines still over there, or has she moved on to Magnolia or something? Or doesn't she have her own network now? I feel like she's got her own network. Good for her, I say. Okay. Super smooth surfaces, according to HGTV. Let's talk about it. Okay, I agree, but I also don't think this has been trending for a while. It's kind of like the all gray wood floor thing or whatever we talked about from Insider. These have not been trending for a while. They're really like slick, sort of glossy surfaces, whether it's people's, you know, coffee tables or their kitchen tables or whatever. I feel like those were maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Those were really, really popular, right? Super plasticky, super glossy, super smooth surfaces. It felt very futuristic, but it also felt really like cold and impersonal, and everything was super shiny. shiny and your cupboards were shiny, like your kitchen cabinets and everything were very glossy, and it just felt very unnatural. And there was a certain sheen that really played with the light in strange ways, and that's why I think it didn't really make sense. So is this trending, or is this trend dead for 2023? Yeah, but it's been dead for years. So sure, I guess I agree. Okay, next up, they're getting controversial with this one though. Basic nursery color schemes. So this is a funny one to me because I mentioned this ages ago that I didn't like these either. Like, kids love color, and kids rooms and babies' rooms and stuff, it's such a fun way for kids to show their personalities, you know, which depending on their age, they might not even have one, but you know, as they get older, they probably get a little bit more of a personality, and they get to like show off their art, and they get to like have a little bit of fun. And I don't know, like, call me crazy, but this is the one room in the home where a Spider-Man blanket might actually make sense. You know, like, let kids kind of be kids and have their fun. They love color, and they love their little crafts, and they love all those little things. And I just think parents are trying to put kids in the box that fits the rest of their own home. And I just think sometimes if you are lucky enough for your kid to even have their own space, which not everybody does, but if you do, then it's like, you let that kid kind of have that space for themselves and use their imagination a little bit more. I don't know. I'm not a child psychologist, could you imagine? I'm not. So like, I get it, but it's like, you just let kids be kids and have their own space and their own imagination there. You don't have to so carefully integrate and craft the kids' room to fit necessarily the rest of the decor. And as the rest of the home has become neutral and desaturated of color, and we've basically been rotating between black and gray, and then, ooh, that was out, so then it was all white, and then, ooh, now it's all beige. And like, you know, instead of just kind of having an all neutral rest of the home, which seems to be what everybody's rotating through the last several years, this be the one room where, you know, kids get to show a little bit of personality there. So I would agree with HGTV, let the kids have some fun. By the way, if you love to see like someone making fun of this, that does it, chef's kiss, is official sad beige on Instagram. I wore this sweater just for her. She does really cool like reels and TikToks and stuff where she makes fun of sad beige children, or what is it? She has this series called like Sad Beige Clothes for Sad Beige Children. I mean, it's hilarious. So I agree with her and everybody else. You know, let's let the kids have some color, okay? Let's let them have some color. Okay, next up, they've got acrylic accents. This is like the ghost chair, the plastic chairs, everything being that really clear acrylic. This was something, you know, you see a lot in kind of mid-century modern design, as you sort of had that technology at the time back when mid-century modern was super popular, when you're dealing with kind of the 50s and 60s there. And we saw a lot of acrylic being used because it was sort of a new material post-war that was used a lot in mid-century. So that is one of the reasons I think it's been popular for several years. I've never particularly loved it. I find personally it sort of lacks a presence because it's so, you know, clear that that's just an issue. I hate glass coffee tables, glass dining tables for that very same reason. I find acrylic furniture to come across to me as really cheap. And even though oftentimes, by the way, it's not cheap, it's oftentimes very, very expensive. It also usually gets integrated into a very glam design, which is not usually my favorite. A touch of glam can be fun. We all like a bit of sparkle. But the overall glam look, I think, is something super, super dated. So to me, I don't like this very much, and I would agree it's kind of a dead trend for 2023. But you know, you might love it, but it's just not for me. Or apparently for HGTV. I never thought I would say that. Okay, and then finally from HGTV, we have caged industrial lights. This one hits hard because of course I've got one back there. Listen, I can be self-deprecating. That's, you know, that's fun. And yeah, I guess maybe agree that objectively, it's not the trendiest of things. I still love them. I want to end with this one because like, this is a really good example of it doesn't really matter what I say or anybody else says. If you still love it, put it in your home. It's more important for people to put things in their home that they genuinely love, that they have a, you know, maybe hopefully a story attached to it or a memory attached to it. They can remember where they bought it or who made it, or, you know, if you can curate a space to be really thoughtful and intentional with what you put in, things that really represent you, that it's a, you know, a concept that is kind of you brought to life in your home that you get to invite your friends and family into. That's what design is all about to me. And I still love that pendant. I bought it when it, you know, it was a friend's wedding, and we traveled for a friend's wedding, and Mike and I were in the wedding party, and it was a whole thing, and we found this light in this small little shop, and we picked it up, and I love it. Is it the trendiest thing? Probably not anymore. Do I care? No, because that's, by the way, the two biggest comments I got on my channel is, I hate the pendant that you have there. It's so ugly and dated. Thanks for that. And also the clock, which is so controversial. Some of you love the clock. And by the way, if you do, it's from CB2, but it's discontinued. Trust me, no one's more sad about that than I am. Could you imagine the affiliate link revenue I would have made on that? I would have sold thousands of these clocks. People love this clock, but c'est la vie. But a lot of you hate it, and that's cool too. Like a lot of people are just like, you know what, super dated is the like big giant clock that you have in your background. And I'm like, I've got that comment 400 times. It's not as, that comment's not as clever as you thought it was. But yeah, some people love it, some people hate it. I don't care. If you love it, put it in your home. That's kind of ultimately the lesson here. It's always nice to get new ideas from trends and see what's new and what's not. And that's kind of the point of these videos. But in the end, you do what you want, including industrial cage light fixtures. So that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna link here to my video on reaction to publications and what they say about trends that are coming down the road for 2023. So sort of a flip to this one. I did it a couple of weeks ago, so go check out that video. Thank you to all my patrons, and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye.